Inspired by sound.
Hello, this is Artist Spotlight, and I'm very fortunate to have a friend, a steel pan player in the room with me today, a guy called Andy Narell. Some of you will have heard of him, hopefully many of you. But for those who haven't, Andy, tell me about yourself.
Oh no.
All about every last thing.
Everything. You know, people have been telling me I should write a book because I've
You
been
should
telling
write a
so
book.
many stories. That, you get to that point in life where you just have so many stories to tell that it's nonstop. You know,
That's life, isn't
but
it?
it's a daunting undertaking. You know, to even think about starting it. So I'm not there yet. But
You will be.
anyway, my quick bio is that I grew up in New York City, and my father, who had been blackballed out of the teaching profession, fell into social work, and he was working with street gangs in New York City, and he happened upon steel band music accidentally. They were about to fire somebody who was a counselor at a summer camp they ran, and they asked him what else he knew how to do, and he said he could play pan and make them. He was from Antigua. His name was Rupert Sterling.
Oh, okay.
And my father, who had seen a steel band all of one time in his life, said, let's hire this guy and try it. So they made Rupert made one set of pans and taught one group. And they were out playing gigs, and everybody wanted to do it. And within a year and a half, my father and Rupert had launched 20 steel bands on 2 sets of instruments in 2 rooms at a place called the Educational Alliance, which is a community center settlement house down on the Lower East Side of Manhattan.
Mm.
And he organized the first steel band festival in 1962, the first one in America.
Amazing.
And
Look at that.
I played at it. I was 8 years old. That's actually my first recording that I have of myself playing.
Fantastic. You still have it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, we have it. I found it on some tapes, reel-to-reel tapes that we had saved, and I got them transferred to digital.
It's the best thing, you store it for the children.
And, I was supposed to go to medical school and find a cure for cancer and win a Nobel Prize and all that stuff. Like normal expectations for a Jewish kid from New York.
Sure thing.
And but it didn't work out that way. And, the Trinidadians say the pan has a jumbi in it, and it's capable of jumping out of the pan and into you. And jumbi is like a word they use for a spirit,
Yes.
and or a supernatural being.
Well, it
And,
makes sense. I mean, I grew up around pan too, and I've always felt that it was a special instrument to me and my family too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, I'm not going to drag you through all the details of my life, but that's been at the center of it, is playing pan and trying to find a way to play pan in jazz and in popular music and in world music and play with anybody I can. The pan has been my passport. I write music, and I've put out about 20 albums, and
Only 20, everybody.
actually
Come on.
a little
No,
more
you
than
kid-
that, but
I'm kidding.
some of them are collaborations, and most of them are I'm the leader and composer on the album. And and I'm involved with both jazz and world music, and also steel band music. I compose a lot and teach it. And,
Yes.
So I'm all over the world teaching. I have things coming up. I'm going to Japan in a few weeks to work with groups in Kobe and Tokyo. And
I'm actually a bit jealous of that. I
they're
want to
fa-
go to Japan. I love the idea of it.
they're so enthusiastic over there. They love the pan. They play beautifully. They've been playing my music now for at least 15 years or so over there. So I've been going over more and more regularly to do some teaching. And this time it'll be very intensive. They've been working all year on the music, and I'll be rehearsing for a week or so with each group, different repertoires in Kobe and Tokyo. There's a big festival in Tokyo where we'll have about 50 or 60 players playing one of my tunes.
Nice.
And,
Will you have it on YouTube as you've done with the
It
St.
is.
Lucia
It
workshops?
will be, of
and
course. Actually, there a bunch of videos from the last time I was in Kobe in 2022 There's one called it's called the Passage, and it's a Kobe Steel Band Festival if you're Googling it.
Right.
And there's about almost 60 players in the band. And then there are a few other tracks from a group called Fantastics that I work with over there, and it's more like 20 players. And so I'm going to do the same thing over there in Kobe, and then I'm going to go down to Tokyo and work with a guy who's been teaching for decades now over there, and he had 100 students at one time at this school in Tokyo called Pan Village. So I'm going to work with them and with some kids groups too.
So you find after all this time that Pan has never left your life and you're not bored of it, and you just want to keep playing.
No, it's kind of like owning a passport, you don't want to give it up.
No, I hear that.
And no, I've found what I love to do. I love music basically, and
Yes.
I love being creative and teaching and putting it, working with orchestras is a joy. Playing with great musicians is a joy. It's all like
There's nothing quite like it, is there really?
and it's really kind of led me all over the world, and even to the point of where I live. The music brought me to Paris, and the music brought the band brought me to St. Lucia. I live in half the year in Laborie, in a beautiful little village in St. Lucia, and sometimes I look around at look at my life and say, boy, how did I get so lucky? A pan player having this good a life. Who would have thought?
I know, right? And I think basically people that don't know of you will have actually heard you without realizing, because you've been on some quite big tunes over the years.
A lot of places, people hear me that don't know me also hear me in film soundtracks and TV. There was a time when I was on TV doing TV commercials in the U.S. that were seen by virtually everybody because they were playing them during the football games.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Monday night and Sunday afternoon and stuff like that. And I played on a lot of pop records from all different countries, not just musicians from all over the world.
No. And I was surprised to come across you in a Sesame Street video.
Yeah, I did that when I was about 20 years old.
You're doing the
20 years
12
old.
song.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
It's
Beep.
brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
It is. The guys that wrote it was super clever, and there's all the odd time stuff in it, and they got the Pointer Sisters to sing.
Okay.
And,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's them.
Yeah, I was watching a Charles Cornell video. He's a YouTuber. He breaks down a lot of music from all over the universe. Game music, Sesame Street music, all kind of things. And I heard this pan player, and I messaged you straight away, didn't I? I said, "Is that you?" And you say, "Yeah, that's me."
Yeah, guilty. It's
Guilty.
charged.
My introduction to you came about 10, 11 years ago now, because I was working with a band called Steel Pan Fusion, and we did like a tribute to you, even though you're not dead. And it was really great. The first thing I heard was Light in Your Eyes and Chocolate Fog and Stickmen and all these. And it was just like, I'd never heard steel pan music like it before. And it really opened my ears to stuff that I was surprised to, I thought I knew a lot about steel pan with my dad being a steel pan player for as many years as I've been alive and more. But I heard that stuff and I was like, damn,
Yeah.
I want to play in that kind of thing.
Well, those were the early attempts at doing something different. I was in my 20s when I did those albums, and I was just learning about.
But they
recording
still
and
stand up,
composing.
They still sound ahead of their time to me, listening in 2024 and 5 and even in 2014.
Yeah, for me, it's sort of like I would hope that when I did it and stuff, but I'm more humiliated than anything else when I listen to old recordings of myself, especially my playing. That's where I really feel the pain when I listen to my soloing, even from last year.
You know
what I
what?
mean?
I get that. Every time I listen to something I've done, I think I could solo better than that, even 5 minutes ago. And it just always happens.
Yeah, it's like it's good news, bad news thing.
Yes, yes.
The bad news is it's humiliating to hear it, and the good news is I don't play like that anymore.
Yeah.
So
Okay, well, from humiliation to salvation, what do you think is some of your best work, some of the stuff that you're most proud of throughout the years?
well, I have certain compositions that stand out. You
Yeah.
know, like one of the tunes that I wrote that I think is really held up is one I dedicated to my daughter. It's called Song for Mia,
Mm.
and when I did a version with a group called Sake Show, which is Mario Canoge, Michel Alibo, Jean-Philippe Fanfan,
This
and
is your
me.
current group, isn't it?
Well, actually, it's been a current group for 30 years, and we didn't play together for the last 10 years.
Okay.
And we just played last weekend, 2 gigs in Guadeloupe,
Oh,
and
wow.
we're putting the band. We're getting back together. We're going to play a few nights in Paris before I leave this summer,
Yes.
and maybe get some more gigs. But the I did a version of it with a steel band in Paris called Calypso Session, and I had Mike Brecker play on that track, and it's just one of the most gorgeous saxophone solos you've ever heard. It's like among his really great playing.
I'm going to have to find that.
Oh, you don't have to find it. If you don't have it for some reason, I'll just send you
I'd love
the
to hear
links
that.
to
That'd be
download
great.
all those albums and stuff. That album, I also had Paquito de Rivera and Hugh Masekela soloing with the band, so it was really exciting for me that way. And you know, I don't know. It's always like the I think there's another piece on that album, The Passage, which is a very I'm real happy with it as a piece of steel band music, and I think some of those tunes that I wrote for Panorama.
Yes.
I didn't write that one for Panorama. I actually wrote The Passage for a music festival in France, the European Steel Band Festival. But some of those steel band pieces I wrote for Panorama have held up really well. Coffee Street is sort of a hit for me, I mean, steel bands all over the world
That's
play it.
2000, isn't it? Or 1995, one of those?
1999.
99.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that was my debut in Trinidad Panorama as an arranger, and it was a very exciting time for me to do that.
You've had it for years, but I haven't had it for very long. But I tell you, there's an immense feeling of joy when people play your music live for the first time. Like, I still love that feeling.
I so much appreciate that, especially because it really, like, I always wanted to hope that people would play my tunes
Yeah.
in jazz context, but often for a long time, not that many people did because they just felt like, well, this was written for steel band, something like that. And then along came, I got more involved in steel band music,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden I started realizing that kids and schools, college and high school steel bands were playing my music all over the place, without me being involved.
Yeah. Right.
And that was also a real turning point for me. And I realized, this is really an area where I can be creative and keep it going, and keep something going and keep performing and keep having other people play my songs.
I think I'm going to ask you for arrangement tips because I've written music for steel pan, but I'd like it played by, the great musicians. So I'll have to send you things.
Well, it's like if you really want to understand steel band arranging, I would recommend you do what I did, which is to listen to Ray Holman and Bugsy Sharp and Clive Bradley
Ah, yes,
and
Bugsy
Jit
Sharp.
Samaru, and Beverly Griffith. And Tony Williams. Those are the giants of arranging for me. And really, they figured out how to make this thing work. This huge machine, which is like 100 and something players playing steel pans,
Yes.
and becoming kind of like one big instrument. And so, and now there's some younger guys that are, doing great work. Andre White did a beautiful arrangement last night for Mangrove, and Chris Story for Pan Nation last night, and Duvant Stewart's been doing beautiful arrangements over here for Ebony in London, as well as
Yeah,
for Renegades in Trinidad.
because we're recording on Carnival Sunday in August of 25. So for those of you who don't know, Panorama was yesterday, wasn't it? Yesterday evening.
Yeah, Panorama was last night. it's it's exciting. I think it's a unique thing. I tell people, you can go to the park, you can hear the music, it's great. But the chance to hear a steel band uh, on the street practicing behind the park before they go in, and you can stand like right there
You
you know.
can, yeah. We did
And
that the year that we met. I think it was 3 years ago we met now, 22
something like that. Was it after COVID or before that
after.
we after?
Yeah,
Okay. So yeah. And you came down there and heard it.
I did.
And there was remember there was such a crush of people that you lost your stick.
I did. I lost my cane that year. I had to buy another one straight away at great expense. They're not cheap, these stupid
They're
things.
really?
Now about £75, I think.
Ooh,
So that was
I owe
exciting.
you.
No, you don't. It was annoying. But next, I learned that I'd have to hold on to it better. But
I
yeah,
was supposed to be guiding you through this crowd, and it was just unbelievable.
it was
It
huge.
was, it was really not so much as enormous number of people, but it was enormous number of people packed into a little bottleneck. You
Yeah,
know,
I don't know why
the
that
band
happened.
took up most of the street, and then we had this little passageway, and people were standing there, and people were trying to go in both directions
At the same time.
at the same time, and it was so crowded, nobody could move. We were just like pushing our way through the crowd. It was,
It was like wading, wasn't it? It was
and
crazy.
we had a little of that last night, but not so bad. But
Yeah, I haven't been in that kind of a crowd since then.
oh,
Back in the day, I used to live on the carnival route, so I used to go into carnival a lot more than I do now.
oh, you're brave.
Yeah, I used to live in West London, but now I don't live
Yeah,
there. So
I stay away from that. There's too many people, too much volume.
I don't like that.
A million people with like DJs blasting everywhere and stuff. It's just too much for me.
That's
And
not
in
my
fact, I
idea of
think they're getting ready to move Carnival out of Notting Hill. It's become too big for those narrow streets. And you go there and it's kind of a shame. You see the preparations for Carnival, and you see all the businesses boarding up their places because it's so chaotic at Carnival time that they're afraid that all the windows are going to be broken.
It's bad when you can't even get into your own house.
Yeah.
This happened to us one year. There was a guy being arrested on the stairs of our house, and we couldn't actually get in. We had to prove to the police we lived there.
Oh God.
Pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to know is if you could do anything, play anywhere with anybody, and money was no object, who would it be and where would you play?
Herbie Hancock.
Amazing.
I dream of that. He's my idol.
He's stunning, obviously.
Yeah. Anywhere.
Anywhere, anytime. Let's go.
Okay.
I hear that.
And I've always kind of felt that way about Stevie Wonder, but I have no idea what I would be able to do with Stevie Wonder. I just love him so much. I think he's such an amazing composer, singer, everything.
He was over here a couple of weeks ago doing a tour, I think, in London.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I don't imagine it would be as fulfilling for me as an experience, although just to be, there, would be amazing. But, I've kind of,
I'm surprised you've never played on one of his tracks before.
yeah, damn. Well, he's not that active anymore, recording
Yeah.
like he was when I was a young guy.
He said he was still working on stuff, though, so
Yeah,
maybe
that's
you
great.
just got to reach out,
That's great. Maybe, yeah.
Put it on the bucket list.
I've actually been, was hoping to try to show him the pants from the sample library.
That's the thing we
That I
must
put
talk
out.
about. Of course, that's kind of how we met, is because of that.
And I was at the NAMM show, and his tech guy brought him over to the Ilio booth to hear something, and he was 10 feet away, and I couldn't get their attention, to show him. the
Surrounded by
pants.
people.
So wherever he goes, he's just surrounded by people taking selfies, trying to talk to him, get next to him, and it's like a moving entourage, everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
And he's got guys helping him and protecting him too. So that's part of the entourage also.
So tell us about this pen library. In fact, I have it, of course. I've used it. It's the best one I've heard and that I've played. How did you do it? And what persuaded you to do this?
Well, what persuaded me to do it was that people were putting out such bad sounding samples. of
Yeah,
steel
that's actually
pans,
true.
And it was just getting annoying, the fact that it was like the technology's arrived and we can't stop it, and it's going to happen. For a long time I felt like, well, I'm not going to do this sampling because these sounds belong to Elie Manette, the guy that made the instruments that I play. And but then I saw, that there's just, the stuff sounds so bad, and the people that were putting out sample libraries had so little understanding of pan, really. You know, they felt that they could take any old pan, one instrument, sample it a million different ways with all these different mic combinations and distances and everything like that, and that would be deep sampling, you know. And I've actually heard claims like you'll never need another steel pan sample again. This is so good, and it was literally a joke to me. I mean, everybody, like, you know, even some people that were serious about it that I knew in Trinidad, they asked me for feedback, and I told them, you know, well, you don't have good pans. They're not well tuned. You don't know how to play them, and you don't know much about recording pan either. So outside of that, you're doing a good job with all the other technology that comes after.
Yeah.
But it's that all that other stuff, you know, that. And finally, it was a guy named Darren Dyke who studied with Elie Manette as a tuner, and he's a player also. And he started spending time with computers, and he learned how to use Contact. And he said, "Look, I can show you how to use this thing." And we could sample. He actually sampled a pan to show me what a quick idea of what it could do.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know, "Look, I show you how to run this program. You're the guy that should do this, you know." And so I thought about it, and I said, well, maybe he's right. Maybe there's value at this point in doing this and doing it right. So, but I wanted Ellie's blessing on
Yes.
this thing. I didn't want to just go and do it. So I went to him, and I talked to him and his whole staff at Manette Steel Drums, all the other tuners, and I presented the project, and I said, look, you know, here's what it entails. You know, I've been advised not to do it, that it's too much work, and that we'll get hacked later and we won't make any money and everything. But I think it's worth doing, and I think it'll be part of your legacy, and to make it, the reality is it's going to make your instruments accessible to everybody. Anybody in the world can play your pans with that sound. Is that what you want? And you'll also be on the receiving end of royalties, if there are any, if we can sell this thing, you know. And Ellie bought in. Ellie was like, yeah, I'm down with that, you know. And when I was doing demos halfway through the project, I was playing them for him, and I was saying, just warning him, like, you realize the keyboard players are going to murder us, you know. They're going to like be playing all the best pan solos are going to be played by piano players, you know. Are you okay with this, you know? And he was like, yeah, I'm okay with this, you know. And he didn't live long enough to see the release of the final version, but he did hear demos and works in progress while I was working on it. And basically what I did was sample a whole orchestra of instruments that I was using on my albums. The way I would record steel orchestra music was I would travel around and record the whole album on 25 different pans, you know, like 5 tenors and a whole 8 double seconds and 4 sets of triple guitars and 2 tenor bass and 4 sets of 6 bass, and then drums and percussion and all that stuff. So it was a big band.
Yes.
And I had to, you know, not only grind it out and play everything on every instrument, but, you know, the travel involved and finding a place to record and all this stuff. It was an enormous amount of work to do each one of those albums. And I said, let me sample all those instruments and see what I can put together.
Where did you record the sessions?
In my basement, in Ellie's studio, in a garage, in a school where I had some bass pans in California, all over. California, West Virginia, and Paris, basically, is where I did all the sampling.
Okay.
And it just, once I had to, I had to ramp it up. I had to, like, learn, you know, how this thing works. What's this program capable of? But first of all, what I was able to use was my knowledge of pan and how to record pan. So the actual sampling part was the easy part for me, you know, to be able to just say, okay, I'm going to play every note on every single pan at 40 different volumes. And
so there's no doubling and stretching of notes. You've grammatically gone on each instrument.
To start with, yeah. Later, I found I could, if I didn't like the way one note sounded versus the other ones, that it stuck out, that I could get rid of that and I could take the adjacent note a half step away, detune it, and
But
use
that's
that.
okay, you know, because when you think of the sample libraries of old, they would do it like for fourths or fifths or entire octaves.
Yeah,
But
well,
you didn't go that
I'm
far.
just no. I basically use half steps in the middle of the instrument just to make a better than real instrument.
That's fine, I would say.
And I also use that technique to extend the range of some of the instruments. And I
Yeah.
found that I could go about 3 half steps lower on the bass pans and the guitar pans, and they would still sound good. After that, you know, if you go too far away, it gets fuzzy,
It does.
and
It does, yeah.
especially if you're going well, it just gets different. And if you're going lower, it gets kind of mushy and less clear.
And high, it just becomes ping, ping, ping. And that's not
Yeah.
nice either.
Yeah. So, and we got plenty of high on steel pans.
Yes, indeed.
They all have like, you know, upper register stuff that's there to create harmonics and so on, you know. So, and then, you know, just starting to put the, you know, I had to realize I had to balance each instrument one sample at a time,
Yeah.
you know. So that's, and each instrument is roughly 1,000 or so samples. So
Wow.
that's a lot of balancing, you know, and to go through the chromatic scale at every possible MIDI volume and get this whole thing to play so it would play like a balanced instrument. That was a ton of work, and then a lot of work just kind of tried balancing these instruments together to create sections. And so that's what the whole library is really about, is it got broken down into like individual bass pans and different combinations of bass pans, and so that you could create a section of 2 or 3 or 4 players and
Yeah.
just play that at once. And to do that with each part of the band. And so there are like basically 5 families there: bass, tenor bass, triple guitar, double second, and tenors. And each one has several instruments. There are like, I think, 21 instruments in the library. I also put an old pan in there.
Which I still haven't been able to play yet. But we're fixing that.
We're gonna get around it. I have to set you up with that. I have to find a way so you can click on that.
I do love the library, though. It has been said. I've used it on some things, and people have asked, hey, who did you get to play that? My dad, an actual pan player, asked one time, who played on that for you? And I said, I did. And I had to tell him.
Yeah.
And he looked at me like, what did you just do to me?
You know, when I first, you know, I didn't know where to go with this. People, you know, I had finished it, and people were like, I didn't have an interface yet, but the sounds were done. But people at software companies weren't answering my emails. I didn't know how to reach out to people
Yes.
to find them, you know. And a friend of mine named Steve Miller, who had engineered and mixed a lot of my records, came down to visit me. And he was the one that told me not to do it. That he had worked on a project called Ocean Way Drums, which was very ambitious. And he said, you know, it's going to be too much work and all this kind of stuff.
I'm glad you did it, though. You
And-
persevered.
And he came down, and I played him what I was working on, and his first reaction was, "Oh, it sounds good, but the solo, that's you playing pan, right?" And that's when I knew I had him,
Oh,
because the whole thing had been I was playing all sampled pans, and I played the solo on a keyboard, you know.
yep.
And so he took it to Ilio, and I did a 1-minute demo for Ilio, and that's all it took. You know, Mark Hiskey could hear that this was like clearly going to be the standard for steel pans, and whether or not it was going to sell a lot and make a lot of money, he wanted it.
How has it sold? I'm not like
Slow.
numbers, but is people are liking it, I'm sure.
People love it, but it hasn't crossed over into people realizing that, like, it's the same story I've been dealing with basically my whole life, is that there's a barrier there where people feel like, yeah, I'll use steel bands when I have a shot, when I have a scene on this film where I'm in the Caribbean and I need that vibe.
You can do so much more than that.
Then I'll go buy a steel band.
But people don't know that.
And I can probably get away with a cheap one anyway. You know, the one that doesn't sound good because that's the vibe. And there's always been that, you know, even like the first Hollywood composer to start using me on a lot of soundtracks was James Horner.
Okay.
And James told me that the producers gave him shit about it. You know, they would say like, "Why do you have steel pans in this score?" You know, we're not in the Caribbean. You know, and
it's such a narrow-minded
James
view.
James was like,
"Come on,
it's a sound. I'm using it in it. It's a color and a sound, and I'm using it as a part of the orchestra."
Yes.
And I've got a guy who can solo too and improvise. So he was using me that way from the get-go. The first film I did for him, I was featured soloing on. It was a film, Eddie Murphy film, 48 Hours.
Oh yeah, right.
And so, you know, but there's always been that thing, you know, and I feel like this pan library is right on. I'm using it all the time. It sounds amazing. Everybody that's using it thinks it sounds amazing. And
yeah.
The potential, it has enormous potential musically. It's just a question of like waiting for somebody who has like really big visibility to come out and use it on a track. And
yeah,
that would just that could turn the sales into like many times what
it's possible the
we're
marketing
getting right now.
just hasn't been enough.
You know, there's potentially thousands and thousands of people out there that would want to buy this if they heard Jacob Collier using it.
That's what I'm thinking. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
But we're not there yet, and I'm still struggling to get it over that hump. But
maybe you need to reach out to his people and just get him a copy so he can play it.
I've tried. I've tried. They don't answer. You know, it's hard to get a hold of people. You got to really work at that, and it's something I've never been into doing that much. And the older I get, the less I feel like I want to spend my time like chasing contacts and
it's not fun.
And so on. You know,
it's difficult when people don't answer because you spend time and you think, oh, you know, you've got something good to say and they don't really care. So you just got to move on.
But you know, I believe in it. It's there. It's done. I'm gonna do an update. I'm gonna keep working on it. Come up with some new ideas, and eventually, who knows? It might become widely used, more widely than now.
Well, my channel is a
hope
baby
so.
channel, right? We only have 4,000 subscribers, but you know, there might be a couple of buyers from people that listen to this. So, you know, we'll go with that.
Well, you play 'em at the end of this interview or behind us. You could.
I was
put
thinking,
a track.
Well, my whole plan was, I don't know if it's going to hit copyright, but the album you did, Childlike, was it called Childlike?
Like a child.
Like a Child.
Yeah.
I was playing that this morning. And was that an album you made with the Pan Library?
Only I used all steel, all samples.
Yes.
It's live drums, live percussion. There's couple of horns and stuff like that, but it's the whole steel band is sampled.
Is it on streaming services or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can go to Ilio and to my page and just it's there, but it's also at SoundCloud. If you hit Andy Narell Like a Child, you'll.
Well, the only reason I ask is because if it's on streaming services and I put it behind the whole interview, then it might get content match and YouTube might take it down. But if it's not like on Spotify or Apple Music, then they may not touch it.
Well, I don't know. I originally put it on SoundCloud, so
yeah, but that's okay.
I'm not sure about all the legal stuff.
I know it's such a pain because all you want to do is show music to people, and they hate that.
Yeah.
So with these records,
well, we live in a strange time. You know, I mean, the whole idea of copyright and intellectual property is going through a lot of changes. You know, because of the internet.
Yes, it is.
Basically.
I don't know where we'll go from here, but
you know, it pretty much destroyed, for the most part, destroyed the record industry.
Yes.
You know, it's almost non-existent now.
That's the one.
So we're all kind of on our own, just trying to figure out how to get our music out, and the questions of intellectual property and receiving any kind of payment for your music. It's all an improvisation now. I mean, some of the institutions are still there. I still get checks from BMI, you know, and publishing and stuff like that.
I know what you're saying.
But I'm kind of amazed when I see it. You know, like wow, they're still collecting money.
Yeah.
Where is this coming from? You know, it's certainly not sales of records anymore.
No, long gone are the day. I was talking to my son about this. My son is 15, and I was telling him when I would used to go down to HMV and actually buy a CD physically and put it on, listen to it. And he wants to do that. You know, he is quite an old soul sometimes in a young body, and I like that. So I said that we would sit down and have listening parties. I recently got a set of Genelec speakers. One is next to you. And we've been sitting together playing music for the very first time. And it's been really nice, honestly.
Cool. Yeah, like the old days, you know.
Like the
we
good
used to
old
sit down and listen to an album.
Yes, and not skip for each 10 seconds and try something else.
Right.
So it would be nice to do that. So a few last questions, if I may. One that just came to me is, what's the most avant-garde / unusual thing you've ever played on, if you can remember?
Well, again, you know, you make me scan like 60 years of some years of playing music. It's really hard to find it, but I could hit you with one right away.
Yeah.
Just recently I did. Omar Sosa and Paolo Fresu, trumpet player from Italy. Omar Sosa is a Cuban piano player, and they did an album called Food, and they asked me to play on a track, and it's pretty out there what we did. I was just like, wow, this is just like, go for it, totally different. I could try almost anything on this, and I did, and they liked it, you know.
Well, why not, you know?
So that was pretty interesting in terms of like something different.
Sometimes
you know, we
different is
used
good.
to, but I grew up on like my earliest jazz education. I played in a band when I was like 19, when we used to go out and play free music for the first tune of the set. You know, every night would be like 20-minute piece of just free.
Yeah.
And there was some great improvisers in the band, and it was just learning for me. I'd never played music like that. It's like, let's just play. I had seen it done a little bit. I remember when I was 15 and I first saw Miles Davis play, and I think the thematic material that they had worked out for the set lasted about 5 seconds. Something like that, 10 seconds. That was about it. It was just a phrase or something like that, and then they were gone.
Have you ever done classical music on steel pan?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. You know, especially when I was younger. Yeah.
Because, you know, it would be very interesting to see if somebody had ever done like microtonal tuning on a steel pan.
Well, that's the next step, something I want to work on. I want to put it into the library, actually.
Well, that's what I was thinking, right? It'd be easier to do it in software.
There already is software. You could do it. I'm using one called, I think it's called Microtoner.
Oh, yeah.
What's those guys? It's the guys with all those Armenian instruments, Turkish, and all that whole part of the world.
Okay.
I just forgot the name of the company all of a sudden, but
that happens to all of us.
But they have a micro tuner that you could just put in as a plug-in on the track. But I would. It's pretty easy to put. I think it's going to be pretty easy to put one in as a script on Contact.
I think it would be very interesting because I've never heard pan like that for obvious reasons. You can't just pick up a pan and tune it. You know, it's not like a guitar or something. So it'd be quite cool to do that.
Well, you know, it was something all the way back from, you know, I remember when I was in college and one of my teachers suggested like tuning it to a different kind of tuning. And he suggested I go read Harry Parch's book and listen to his music, which I did. And that was like an early influence on me. You know about Harry Parch?
I know the name.
He started out composing normal music, and one day he threw all his scores into the fireplace and said he was never going to work with equal temperament again.
Okay.
And so he built instruments based on a 43 note per octave scale, and all based on just intonation. And, you know, there'd be like about 4 steps for each half step, or more than 3 steps for each half step.
That is pretty wild.
And the recordings are fantastic. You can check out his music. he wrote music just for these ensembles of instruments that he created, and it was all based on just intonation. So microtonal tuning has always been kind of on my mind, but it was like not practical
No.
for pan to like retune one pan just different. Um, Now it's all going to be possible. We can just tune to any kind of scale from anywhere in the world, or just make up tunings, microtonal tunings,
That's what Piano Tech
adjust,
does. Yeah. You can
and
do a lot.
with the software, and it works. The other thing that works on the on the sampled pads is pitch bend.
Yes,
It
this is true.
like when the guy who was programming for me, he put it on there, and he told me, I steel pans don't do this, so probably nobody's interested. But if we don't put it on there, someone will complain. And I was like, wow, this is killer. I love this. I never heard anything like this.
I've always been too scared to use it on a steel pan.
Oh, it's great, man. Check it out. You can bend the pitches up and down and stuff. It's great.
It feels so wrong.
Yeah, it's wild.
Naughty.
It's wild.
Well,
The other thing I've discovered is the mod wheel,
yeah,
which is
that's what I wanted for the rolls.
yeah. You can, well, the thing about it is, and I don't know if this is accessible for you, but visually you can click on the, you can control click on that roll function,
Yeah,
and then just touch your mod wheel, and then from then on.
not yet, but hopefully one
Yeah,
day. it will be
you click on control click, and you click on MIDI learn, right?
Yeah.
And then you can like control the roll speed with a mod wheel.
I think I can find a way to do that in Logic. I'll think about it. But yeah, that would be nice if it was sort of built in anyway.
Yeah.
Because the mod wheel sat there doing nothing for this entire library. It's a shame. It could do something.
Oh yeah, it can do a lot of things. This MIDI learn is on quite a number of functions on the
Exactly.
on the thing, but I think we could perhaps attach it to even more functions and see what we can come up with.
Yeah. Well, sir, we come to nearly the end. I just wanted to know one last thing, if I may. Two things. One is, what's your most recent thing that people could go listen to? And yeah.
Well, the most recent project I have is not out yet, but it'll be out soon.
Okay.
And it's a collaboration with David Rutter. And David and I have been close friends for nearly 40 years. And
Long time.
he's, as you probably know, some of his music, he's written like dozens and dozens of hits, classic songs in the Caribbean. He's people know his words and so on. He's a great singer and interpreter of his own music, but he basically had a whole career of singing his own music. And he asked me one day, he said, let's do something. So I had just read a piece that Debbie Jacob wrote about Black Stalin after he died.
Okay.
And I was very moved by it. I knew Black Stalin, and I had worked with him a little bit and loved his music, the words too, but I hadn't really dived deep into his words. And it really made me kind of look at it again. And I went back and started listening to Stalin again after he died. And then I thought, David could sing. We could do this music again, rearrange it, do it differently, and David could interpret these words.
That would be fantastic.
And so I suggested that to him, and right away he said, "Yeah, I like it. Let's do it." So 2 years later, we have an album in hand, and there's going to be I have a video of a concert we did in Trinidad, and the album is done. It's a big ensemble. Drums, bass, a full Latin percussion section, a full iron section, like from Trinidad style, a big pan section, a 5-piece horn section, background vocals,
Wow.
David singing Stalin's words. I'm so happy with this project, and I think by carnival season in Trinidad, like next winter, 2026, we should have it out.
Wow.
And
Nice.
so real excited about that. And
Okay.
as far as my own stuff, I haven't done a whole other album since the sampled album.
Yeah.
Like a Child. But I'm working on some new music all the time, thinking about the next project.
Well, as one of my favorite artists, I'm here if you need me. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, man. Well, I love what you do, and it's just so inspiring to me to see what you've been able to accomplish without being able to see. And I love your
That's
piano
nothing,
playing, and your finger drumming is unbelievable.
Now that would be fun. I've always
I
wanted to
tell
be
people
hired
about
to
you
do
all
that.
the time.
One day I'm going to get someone to hire me to play drums, not piano. It'll be fun.
Yeah, a steady gig.
It'll be fantastic.
Maybe Stevie Wonder.
That'll be hilarious. Okay, then. And my last question for you today, because it's time to eat, is in all the interviews I've ever seen, someone pointed out something, and they said, when you're interviewing somebody, ask them this. What is a question that somebody should have asked you but never did? And it stuck with me. So that's the question. What is a question that someone should have asked you but never has, and you wish they did?
Wow, I don't know. I really have to go home and think about that one.
There you go.
I
See?
wouldn't have a quick answer. Nothing just jumps up to me.
But it left me with food for thought. I was like, that's so interesting, because if you're the one being interviewed, you'd be like, that.
I think, maybe it comes back to, like why we do this.
Yes.
And, I'm more and more, it's funny, the longer I go with the music, and I always believed that there was a value to being creative in music, that the people that I wanted to be like, that they had contributed something.
Yeah.
Like my heroes. When I first started wanting to be a musician, when I started listening to jazz and Motown and so on, and like the people I wanted to, like Miles Davis, it always was my first idol.
Did you get to meet him and play with him?
No, never. Unfortunately. Shame. But I've gotten to meet and play with a lot of people who did play with him.
Yeah.
And and that's been a real gift, in terms of like being in music, is all the amazing people I've gotten to know and to play with, But it also comes back to steel band music is always more and more, it brings me back to the social context of what we're doing and how it brings people together.
Yes, it does. You hear that and you kind of gravitate to it.
And that's revolutionary, because whoever it is that wants to make sure that we don't get too organized and change things in this world. So it's the hypothetical they don't like this, and what happens when you have an instrument and an art form that breaks down barriers between old people and young people, between amateurs and professionals, between black people and white people and Asian people and all kinds of people, and that's what steel band music has, this power. And it actually, the people that created it transformed themselves from violent gangs into disciplined orchestras and centers of their communities. And that's a phenomenon that goes on all over the world. And yes. I just came back from South Africa, where I just basically, I'm just donating my time to anything steel band music in South Africa. I'll go anywhere and teach any bands that want to work with me and make it happen. And I just went down there to do a festival, and it was it's just amazing, what's happening all over the world with this thing. And like I told you, next up is Japan. And
the Pans in Japan.
Yeah, and so.
Can you call the band still Japan?
I didn't answer your question at all, but I came up with something else.
You did. You did.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So, do you have a main website people can go to?
It's AndyNarellMusic.com.
Okay, go check it out. AndyNarellMusic.com. I'll be linking your YouTube channel as well.
And I have a lot of videos up on YouTube on my own channel.
You do.
So.
Well, sir, thank you very, very much for your time. Let's go eat some food. I'm hungry.
Me too.
I think better on a full stomach. That's why I don't tend to play gigs before I've eaten, because I'm a hangry man otherwise.
All right.
So, thank you for your time, and thanks for listening.
Sure. Pleasure.